Good evening, everybody. This is Jamal Ham. This is my assignment on communication apprehension. We're going to go over what communication apprehension is and talk about, some things that we could do to get by not developing it when we're doing public speaking with others and in front of groups and things like that. So I have three objectives that this lesson is supposed to cover. After you get done with this lessons, you should be able to define and explain what communication apprehension is and explain how it affects what we do when we're standing in front of others and we're doing public speaking in front of others, whether it's large groups, classrooms, or just new people that we don't even know. The second objective that we're going to talk about will be able to identify some of the causes of communication apprehension and how they affect our public speaking efforts. And that means we're talking about how that affects our mind, our body, and things like that when we're going through public speaking in front of groups and other people. And then the third objective that I'm going to talk about, and I'm hoping that, you guys get some out of it, is that you will be able to learn about some of the interventions and techniques used to alleviate or maybe even cure communication apprehension if you develop it when you have debates and, things to talk about in front of classes, your peers, or whatever. So one of the reasons why I chose these objectives is because I myself suffer from small bouts of communication apprehension myself. That's a little self sharing that I'm doing with you guys today. Learning about what causes this will help me with getting over my fear of public speaking as well. So I did a little research and searching tool to see what are some things that I could do to actually help myself out when speaking in front of others. I've been a chapter president before for my fraternity, and I've had to get up in front of big groups and speak. And believe me, communication apprehension was in my body. So, just trying to find out ways. And once I get ready to start and I know that I got to give a speech, that's when the tension and everything builds up in me. Now, after, I start talking, my first, words that come out my mouth while giving a speech, I normally level out and I'm okay. But the build up to getting started is very hard on me. After reading the chapter, I want to learn more about the difference between trait anxiety, state anxiety, and scrutiny fear, which are three things that affects us when it comes to communication apprehension, and the fears that we have or the anxiousness that we feel in our bodies when it's time to do public speaking. I can see how, I fit into these categories and see how others are affected by these things also. So, we're going to talk about it to see, how it affects you as well. And you can look at and seeing if you experience any of these things. Also, I would love to help others with techniques and interventions to help them build confidence when public speaking. So choosing these objectives, all in all, allows me to help you guys out in the class. So, my main focus and what I do and my drive in life is to help others out. That's why I've chosen the professions that I have and that I'm in right now. So learning about these techniques will help me as well as you. And that's what my hopes are. And these are the main reasons for me picking these objectives that I picked. I hope to not only help others, but help myself when it comes to communication apprehension. So I have a lesson plan that I've developed, and it's pretty straightforward. And, right now, we're going to go through understanding and managing communication apprehension. That's our lesson today. I've already spoken about our three objectives that we have, and we're going to go through those as well. So what I wanted to do is give you a pretest that you can work on. It's a Likert scale test. I did borrow it from somewhere else, but it talks about communication apprehension and the things to look for when we are going through the things that we go through. So it's like I said, it's a Likert scale, 1 to 5. 1, strongly agree. 2, disagree. 3, neither or nor disagree. 4, agree. Or 5, strongly agree. There's 10 questions on it. I feel tense and nervous when I have to speak in front of a group. Number 2, I worry about being judged when I communicate in class or meetings. Number 3, my heart races when I think about giving a presentation. Number 4, I feel comfortable sharing my ideas out loud. Number 5, I avoid situations that require me to speak in public. Number 6, I feel confident about questions in a group setting. Number 7, my anxiety makes it difficult for me to communicate clearly. Number 8, I feel calm and relaxed when speaking to an audience. Number 9, I think about possible mistakes before I speak. And number 10, I feel physically uncomfortable. That means I'm shaking, I'm sweating, I might have a dry mouth when I speak in front of others. So like I said, those are questions for our pre-test and post-test. So at the end of our lesson, my hopes is that your numbers change from how they originally landed when you did it before you start learning about what communication apprehension is. So how the scores work, 10 to 24, yeah, that means you got low communication apprehension. That means you don't feel communication apprehension. You don't feel the fear. You don't feel the anxiety when getting up and speaking in front of groups of people. 25 to 39 is moderate communication apprehension. That means you feel a little bit anxious. You feel a little fear. You might, and then 45 to 50 points, that means you have high communication apprehension. That means you have a fear, you have anxiety, you have all those things that we're going to talk about a little later in our lesson that exposes you to communication apprehension, that exposes you to having problematic ways of giving public presentations. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to lead with, after you take this this questionnaire, we're going to do icebreaker activity. Icebreaker activities are always good ways to present new information to people or to get people up and talking in the class. And this lesson is all about communication apprehension. So this is going to kind of help some people break, the way that they communicate with other people and things like that. So the first question is, and the only prompt for our icebreaker is, I want you to pick a partner and I want you two to talk about. What I want you to talk about is when you have felt nervous. When have you felt nervous speaking in front of others? So just talk about that between you and your partner. And the next question is, what happened in your body or in your mind when you had to get up and speak in front of others? So I want you to take a few minutes to talk about that with your partner. And then we're going to share out. Those who would like to share out, please feel free to share out. If you don't want to share out, then that's okay as well. But at least share with your partner. So now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this lesson of today. And that is, what is communication apprehension? That is the $1 million question I'm sure that everybody's asking right now as we start talking about this. So the definition of communication apprehension is the fear or anxiety people experience when they anticipate or engage in communication with others, especially in situations such as public speaking, group discussions, or interpersonal conversations. And like I said before, speaking on behalf of myself, I have experienced communication apprehension. Like I said, I was the chapter president. Right now, I'm the dean of students in the school, so I have to get up in front of my staff and deliver lessons, deliver training, and things like that. And that anticipation and that fear and that anxiety always is within me until I start speaking. And we're going to talk about some things that will help with this as well, because I think sometimes we get caught up in really not knowing the lesson or what we're supposed to be talking about, and we go in half doing it, and that kind of messes us up as well. So I just wanted to tell you about that. So when it comes to communication apprehension, there are two things that I want to talk about that makes us feel this way. So you could develop nervousness, or you could develop debilitating apprehension. So those are the two things: nervousness apprehension and debilitating apprehension. So I'm going to tell you guys exactly what each of those are. Nervousness. So when it comes to nervousness is a normal, mild feeling of anxiety that most people experience before or during a communication situation, like giving a speech or speaking in front of a class. It can actually be helpful because it increases alertness, focus, and energy, and usually does not stop someone from performing. So I've been here before. I've been there when I was nervous, and I got over it, and that's kind of what happens with me as well. I've had a few situations, and I'll talk about that, where it was debilitating for me, and I'm gonna explain some of that as well once we get to talking about debilitating apprehension. So nervousness, is the normal form, and it's the mild form of apprehension. And then we have debilitating apprehension. Debilitating apprehension is the intense part. That's the more intense apprehension that happens and takes over one's body while giving speeches and delivering things to groups. So this is the intense, overwhelming fear or anxiety that interferes with a person's ability to communicate effectively. Instead of helping, it causes avoidance. That means skipping presentations or refusing to speak. That means physical symptoms. That means shaking, sweating, or even nausea that comes with it. And mental blocks, significantly reducing performance or preventing communication altogether. Now, this is the one that you really don't want to have when you're about to give a speech. And guess what? I have had this before. And I think it was last year I was supposed to get up and give a speech in front of a group of my fraternity brothers for our Founders Day. And I had my speech written. I had what I was supposed to do and all that. And like I said, the build up to me giving speeches it'd be overwhelming and it takes over. But this particular speech, I don't know why, I had to get out of there. And I don't know why I had to get out of there, but I had to get out of there. So I actually skipped the presentation. I did have something to do that day, but I left. I couldn't even get up there and do it. So that's not the good apprehension that you want to have. So in short, nervousness is the common one. It's manageable and it's sometimes helpful. Debilitating apprehension is the severe form. It can be disruptive and it can be performance limiting. That means you forget your content. You might not get it. You might not even go up there like I did. I avoided it and went home altogether. So let's talk about some of the causes of communication apprehension. So when it comes to the causes, we got 3 primary causes that we're going to talk about. The first cause that we're going to talk about is trait anxiety. Trait anxiety. So trait anxiety is a stable personality tendency to feel anxious across all contents. So this is when we just feel it, no matter where we at, the anxiety persists. It comes upon us. Some learners realize this explains lifelong nervousness. So some people just be nervous all the time about something, and that's part of trait anxiety. That's part of being who you are. Then we got state anxiety. This anxiety is triggered by specific situations that could be new settings, difficult audiences, unfamiliar topics, like I stated before. That's state anxiety. And then we have scrutiny fear. And you hear that word scrutiny, we all know what that word means. That means somebody is judging us, something's going on, somebody don't like what we're doing. So that is the fear of being judged or watched closely. And this is especially common in public speaking and classroom presentations. And like I said, you look at people, you see people looking at you, speaking in front of others and having them just have direct contact with you. That is a hard thing to do. So, those type of things happen. So what we're going to talk about now is some of the interventions or coping techniques that one can use to get rid of these apprehension altogether and be able to speak well in front of others and do what they need to do in front of others. So these are evidence-based strategies to use when you're trying to get over your fear of public speaking. So the first one is cognitive restructuring. This is basically the reframing of negative thoughts. So this is where the example is, I'm thinking I'm going to mess up and be judged when I give my speech. So when you do the cognitive restructuring, you replace that in your mind with, I might feel nervous, but I am prepared and I am capable. And that goes back to where you need to be prepared to do your speeches whenever you're doing presentations in front of others. Do your research, have everything you need. And even if I make a small mistake, most people won't even notice or care. I've learned this by speaking and by doing like step shows and things like that. The only person know you really messed up is you. And sometimes our body language, how we move and our gestures shows that we messed up. Now, if we wouldn't have used those gestures or things, nobody probably would have even known that we even messed up. So that's cognitive restructuring. Now we got systematic desensitization. Now that is the gradual exposure to public speaking situations. So that means putting yourself out there. That means, hey, I know I got to speak, so I'm going to perform it in front of a couple of my friends and see what they think about it. I don't like doing stuff in public places, so I'm going to go to this public place. That means exposing yourself to a speaking situation that might occur. And then we got skills and training. That means practicing, outlining, breathing, and vocal warm-ups. So those are all the things that we need to do. What I talked about, practicing, outlines, breathing. Sometimes it's good, I teach my students to take deep breaths and things like that. Close your eyes and take deep breaths. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Hold it in for 5 seconds, then let it out through your mouth before you get ready to start speaking. And also knowing your stuff and practicing is very important. So next intervention is visualization. That means mentally rehearsing a successful performance. That means you get on there, you record yourself, and it is a success. You mentally did it. You rehearsed it. You practiced it. And once you do that, you're ready to go with the real thing when it comes up. And then positive self-talk. Positive self-talk is very, very important. And that's very important in everything that we do in our lives today. Very important. So that is shifting internal narratives from fear to capability. That means I know I can do it. That's what I said to myself. I got this. I'm going to go up there. I'm not going to forget anything. That is that positive self-talk that everyone needs and needs to learn. So right now, I hope that everyone enjoyed this presentation, and I hope that you got some things out of it that can help you perform for your next public speaking endeavor or event or wherever it's at, a training or whatever. I hope I've given you enough information for that. Go back and look over it and practice these things, because it's essential that we practice, which is one of our interventions and coping techniques that is in this lesson. So thank you all for listening. Have a great day, and I hope your semester was great and a success. Bye-bye.